We've had some quite rainy days and it really just brings out the green and all these little strange tentacle things that burst out. Just take you for a walk. Ooh, I wonder. Yeah, I can. Oh, it's gone. There's a little buzzy thing there. I love how they it's like they're in their little caves. You can just see it peeking out. And up here. Just like, get it. I don't know mushrooms at all. I went one time picking mushrooms with some friends who really knew the different types that were around there, and that was really nice. But I've not taken the time to really learn them myself. But with them all popping up now, I'm thinking it would just be pretty cool to actually be able to ID some of them, and eventually, like, you have to be really careful with mushrooms, but eventually to be able to take some home. Yeah, up here there's, I saw this earlier. Yeah. This is what I was wanting to show you. I didn't even know about that stinkhorn like grotto. I wanted to show you these ones. These are like really ethereal almost. Just the soft whiteness of it. I checked them on an app, and apps aren't great for mushrooms. For plants they're okay. Like, I find with plants they give a good start, but then you have to like look up some pictures yourself and really check it carefully. Oh, there's some. I don't know if this camera will pick them up, but yeah, there's ants crawling up and down there. Yeah, so I find usually the apps give me a good start, and sometimes they turn out to be way off. Like, if the plant's in the wrong stage, then sometimes it's nonsense. But yeah, often they're right, but I wouldn't trust them to eat without checking a few other references. But with mushrooms, I don't trust them very much at all. Yeah, there's some smaller ones that aren't fully opened yet. And then I think it's the same kind and bursts out. Maybe it's a different kind. I don't know. Because there are mushrooms that can look so similar, and one be edible, one be deadly. So. Yeah, so like I was saying, I checked those ones earlier on an app, and it said they were, with high confidence, Amanita family, which is responsible for 70% of all deaths from mushrooms, but also contains some highly prized culinary ones, so it's just like that. But the specific kind that it identified as most likely didn't really look much like it, so I think it got the family right, but I had low confidence in the actual identification. With this series of videos, like the obvious thing for me to talk about is game design, but it's really hard to talk about game design because there's just so much, and like a lot of game design books that I've seen that try and create a framework, if we're talking about it, like it's that very thing that they try to create a framework as part of the problem. But it's tempting because like you have expertise and you're like, how do I explain this expertise? And then you're like, I will try and build an entire structure, mental scaffolding that gets to that, and then you have some toy framework which isn't actually how you expertly think about a thing, and it's getting taught to people in schools, and it's like I've gone completely off track. On my way walking up here, I was thinking like a clear direction I was planning on taking, but then like every time, as soon as I start talking, I get this is why it's a good exercise for me, but like these videos, but maybe not as useful for other people as I'd hope, because like as soon as I'm talking about something, I start thinking, what's the layer underneath that? Why am I talking about this? And then I stop and think, and then like So part of why I'm doing these videos is to talk about my game work, and it's difficult to really articulate what's going on, because it's a lot of intuition and like experiential practice rather than like bullet points. And I actually find it easier to talk about subjects that I'm less that I have less to say about, is really the thing, that I'm less of an expert in, because it's easier to organise the sum total of the knowledge that's in my mind about them and just spit it out. Whereas when it's something I spent at this point years working on, it's just like you just do it, but not like that, and at the same time, like the word expert is like concerning me a bit here, because I have made games that I'm happy with, but I'm far from being able to like just on demand concretely spit out a good design. So that's part of why I'm making videos on topics other than games, is because they're topics that I like and I'm interested in, and I think there are interesting things that people could hear about them. But another reason is that I'm trying to just figure out how to communicate things, how to get across the understanding into words, video, text, like whatever turns out to be the right form. And it's easier to do that with topics where the target is smaller. Yeah, I'm just a bit sensitive because I know I'm like asking for Patreon donations, and like when I last posted a video about game design, there's like a couple of comments like, "Oh, fine," or these talking about game design and not babies, or yeah. So a lot of the trees here are madronia. You can see, there's a. So the fruit obviously starts green and then gets orange, and just 2 weeks ago I was here and there were a lot of red tasty fruit, but the season's a bit funny. Like there's some flowers starting and there's some more fruit that'll be ripe in a bit, hopefully. The funny thing with this one, the fruit don't all come at the same time. There's quite a long season where there's just like a few at a time ripe. So they're not good for like trying to make much out of. Like I've had people make like jams out of them and brew spirits from them, but it's just a lot of hassle, and you can't transport them or anything because they just get squished. So it's just something I like to nibble on when I'm walking rather than to make much out of. They're quite a mild flavour. They're quite variable. So like maybe 1 in 10, 1 in 12 is really sweet and nice, and then a lot of them are a bit more sour, or it's like not as sweet, and then several of them are quite bland. So it's like a lucky dip, you just see what, like that enough of them are pretty tasty. It's like a loot box design, right? You keep eating them to hope for the one that is good, and often enough you do get the reward of a tasty one that you keep going. But also it's not really, because even when they're not just like, oh, this is such a sweet nice fruit, it's still food, in English they're called strawberry tree, which you probably can't see, but there's a really little green bird up there. I wonder if I can get a better angle on it. A lot of plants are named after other plants, and it feels unhelpful to me, because it's not very much like a strawberry, and like people don't necessarily know about plants, and like, oh, strawberry tree, is that what strawberries grow on? And like, no, strawberries grow on the ground, but like, fair enough, if you're grown up in the city, then like, why would you know that? So this tree, I guess I don't actually. So this, I think it's called I think it's called pennywort. And it's growing out of the cracks in this oak tree. This is a cork oak tree. You see up here, this big chunky bark. That's what they make cork out of. Yeah, so it's really like squishy, this cork. And this, yeah, that's just growing out of it. So this, like, it's quite bitter. But it's sort of like crisp, lightness, like cucumbery. Very green flavour. Yeah, the leaves are sort of quite thick, but yeah, it grows on this oak tree, which is pretty neat. So, just wondering if I might find anything else. Oh, so about the oak trees. So there's the sobrero, the cork oak is a kind of oak tree, so it makes acorns. There's also a bunch of other. Speaking of madronias, here we go. Perfect. Like, there's a little bite out of it from bird, but you can see at a good distance. So it's got this kind of spiky skin. It's like a kind of like a dragon skin, and yeah, it's quite really. So this one's a bit overripe even, but yeah, it's very good. Very good. So this little one here, it looks, from the colour it would look ripe, but you see it's quite small, and when you touch it, it's really firm. It's not actually ripe, which is funny. There's like one bright red one amongst a bunch of bigger green ones, and none of them are ripe. This one over here looks better. Yeah. So, yeah, madronia. Oh yeah, and there's more. There's some a bit high up there. I might find a way to get those down. But you got to leave some for the birds as well. Here we go, jackpot. Yeah. So these knobbly things, oaks grow when they get infected with something. Maybe an insect. Yeah, so this tree is having a pretty infected old time there. I saw in... Where was that thing I saw? Lost it. Oh, down here there's something else. Check this out. Yeah? Just coming out of the ground. There is this plant with see, the stem is like square. You can see the like straight edges on the stem. I believe there's some kind of mint. So being sick in this way has really You could say what it's given me is quicker feedback on whether I'm taking care of myself. Because if I overdo things for a day or two, I see the response straight away, rather than being able to keep overdoing things for months and months before collapsing. And I really have a tendency to push myself at my work, and there have been times in my life when I have worked extremely hard and had what I would describe as burnout. All these little berries, little red berries, they look very pretty. Don't eat those ones. And now I get burnout after a day of overdoing it rather than like months. And like, yeah, it takes some effort to keep a positive outlook on that. But yeah, it really it's easier to learn the faster your feedback is. So I've really tried as much as I can to use that resource to learn about what's good for me. And being outside is actually pretty good for me. It's as someone who programs computers, makes computer games, plays computer games, like it's easy to fall into that stereotype of being a nerd. And I never thought of myself as like a outdoorsy type, but like, it just feels good. So yeah, in some of those months when I was really finding it hard to concentrate, hard to, like, painful to spend much time sitting at a computer. And so I couldn't do my usual work. Being able to just go for a relaxing walk in the forest and at the same time bring home some food felt really good, and because we want to work, we want to be productive in the sense of doing something useful and meaningful and providing for our family and that kind of stuff, and that urge gets twisted by capitalism into this drive for being constantly productive, but that makes it hard sometimes to talk about how it feels good to be productive, but it really is naturally good to be productive. Just real productivity is something that's to a meaningful end, or something that is to practical sustenance. So yeah, through some of the harder months of sickness, I was going for walks and getting acorns and blackberries and various leaves and fruit and bringing them home, and it just even though I wasn't doing the things that hopefully bring in money, I was bringing in calories, this world is still here, it hasn't all been assimilated into the economy. There's still calories just lying on the ground, there to be taken with a stroll. And that just really goes deep. Yeah, I feel learning about how to identify plants that you can eat, how to gather them, it's really it's a kind of information that we're really well adjusted for learning, because it has survival value in the ancestral environment. Kids are born looking around, looking for the plants, asking which of the kinds they can eat. It's really draws something like there's a lot of subconscious machinery for intuitive recognition. You can learn about like the shapes of the leaves and how many spikes, and are they one by one or at the same point. But like, you just interact with them and get to know them, and then you just recognize it's not. Once you know a plant, you're not going up to it and going, oh, is my ID really correct? You just see it from any angle, and you know it because you know it as a personality. It's just a really fundamentally satisfying kind of knowledge to acquire, and there's a really satisfying confidence that comes from using your skills, your knowledge, your wisdom to feed yourself, because it's embodied in a very tangible way, that you see something, you think about, you apply your knowledge, and then you put it inside you. Like, it literally becomes part of you, and your whole body responds to this. And I've just found an acorn, so I'll talk about acorns in a moment. Yeah, plant knowledge is a very embodied kind of knowledge, because it literally affects what you can put inside your body. And to go out into the wild and use your skills to take them and feed yourself, really just like it dissolves part of the capitalist illusion. It stops you it deletes the belief that your place is to work, earn money, use that to derive nourishment, and to be a part of that machine. It reminds you that your place is to be a very wise animal. That can do amazing things no other animal can do, but also all of the things that the other animals do quite well. So acorns, collect them, put them in the sun ideally to dry them out, and then the shell comes off more easily. This is the green one, so the shell will be hard to get off. And then inside, they come off the tree green and they dry out going brown. But you see inside, it looks a lot like an almond. It's this little nut and extremely bitter. So what you do with them, there's two ways. You can boil them in water and like change the water a couple of times, and that takes the bitterness out, or you can soak them. The traditional way is maybe with like a bag in a river, if you happen to have running water. But you just put them in a bowl on the bench and change the water every day, and it soaks it out, and then you can grind them up into flour. I like to put some acorn flour into bread. It gives it a stronger flavour, which is nice. I like to put them in soup, like just a vegetable stew, a few nuts soaking through it. And sometimes a tree will produce hundreds and hundreds, and they're just right there on the ground, just ready to pick up. And it's just like this treasure is just sitting there, and nobody else is taking it. It's just free food. Yeah, there's a good one. This is, I said like one in however many is just like really good and sweet. This is like this is what I found here. Someone has left a little offering of fruit. I think this is a Brazilian religion. People come into the forest. I'm not sure who they're making the offerings to. I'm not sure who they are, but sometimes I just come across these. As someone has done something sacred, and it always just feels nice to know that someone was here, taking time to do something special to them.